more he charged them, the more zealously they proclaimed it. And they were astonished beyond measure, saying, He has done all things well. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak. In those days, when again a great crowd had gathered, and they had nothing to eat, he called his disciples to him and said to them, I have compassion on the crowd, because they have been with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. And if I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way. And some of them have come from far away. And his disciples answered him, How can one feed these people with bread here in this desolate place? And he asked them, How many loaves do you have? They said, 7. And he directed to the crowd to sit down on the ground. And he took the 7 loaves, and having given thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples to set before the people. And they set them before the crowd, and they had a few small fish. And having blessed them, he said that these also should be set before them. And they ate and were satisfied. And they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. And there were about 4,000 people. And he sent them away. And immediately he got into the boat with his disciples and went to the district of Dalmanutha.
Excellent. So, what's happening in these verses? Well, where is Jesus? Well, he's near the Sea of Galilee. And what happens? Yeah. Go ahead, Hannah.
He healed the deaf mute man.
He healed a deaf man, and then what else? Yeah, Caitlin.
Feeds the 4,000.
4,000. Yep, it's a separate. This happened twice. There are enough difference in number, difference in fish and loaves, and that sort of thing. Difference in where it was. That there are 2 different stories of that. Okay, so the rest of these we only need to read one because everything else is the same, or it's the same story either way. So for somebody want to read Mark 8:10-12, please. Mark 8:10-12. Go ahead, Grace. Thank you.
And immediately he got into the boat with his disciples and went to the district of Dalmanutha. The Pharisees came and began to argue with him, seeking from him a sign from heaven to test him. And he sighed deeply in his spirit and said, Why does this generation seek a sign? Truly I say to you, no sign will be given to this generation.
So yeah. Oh, by the way, Angela, welcome back. I didn't welcome you the first time. We had a lockdown drill, and so a lockdown drill is in case there's something awful that happens that we have to lock the doors and hide. So we're through that and we're back now. So sorry I didn't greet you either time. Okay, so he's in Dalmantha, D-A-L-M-A-N-G-T-H-A. Jesus is in Dalmantha. We're going over the chart on page 131. And what happened there? Hannah?
The Pharisees argued with him and tried to make him show them a sign.
Yeah, so the Pharisees are looking for a sign from Jesus. What did Jesus say? No sign for you. Yeah. Because you're just looking for a sign. You don't care about following me. You just want what I can do for you. And then somebody read, please, Mark 8:13-26. Mark 8:13-26. Thank you, Ben.
And he left them, got into the boat again, and went to the other side. Now they had forgotten to bring bread, and they only had 1 loaf with them in the boat. And he cautioned them, saying, Watch out, beware of the leaven of Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. And they began discussing with one another the fact that they had no bread. And Jesus, aware of this, said to them, Why are you discussing the fact that you have no bread? Do you not yet perceive or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do not hear? And do you not remember when I broke 5 loaves for the 5,000? And how many baskets full of broken pieces did you take up? They said 10, 12, and the 7 for the 4,000. And how many basketful of broken pieces did you take up? And they said to him, 7. And he said to them, do you not yet understand? And they came to Bethsaida, and some people brought to him a blind man and begged him to touch him. And he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the village. And when he had spit on his eyes and laid his hands on him, he asked him, do you see anything? And he looked up and said, I see people, but they look like trees walking. Then Jesus laid his hands on his eyes again, and he opened his eyes. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. And he went to his home, saying, do not even enter the village.
So he's in Bethsaida, Beth, B-E-T-H, S-A-I-D-A. Jesus is in Bethsaida by the Sea of Galilee. And that was, Bethsaida. He visited a place he visited often. And there's only one loaf of bread in the boat, and what did the disciples say? How are we going to get bread? And this is shortly after the feeding of the 5,000, and yet they're worried about bread. Jesus tells them to beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, and he heals a blind man in that passage as well. And then somebody please read Mark 8:27 through 30. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Then Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of
Caesarea.
Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he asked his disciples, who do people say that I am? And they told him, John the Baptist, and others say Elijah, and others one of the prophets. And he asked them, but who do you say I am? Peter answered, you are the Christ. And he strictly charged them to tell no one about him.
Okay, so they're near Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea is Caesar, S-A-E-S-A-R-E-S. It's Caesar town, basically. Caesarea. And then it designates Philippi. There was more than one Caesarea. And so this is the one that was in the district of Philippi, or in the area of Philippi. And what happens? Jesus asks his disciples a question. What does he ask them?
Who?
Grace?
Who he is.
Yeah, who do people say that I am? And they said, some say John the Baptist, some say a prophet, some say Elijah. And then he says, who do you say that I am? And how does Peter answer?
You are the Christ.
You are the Christ. You are the Messiah. In other versions of this story, it says that Jesus turns and says, you are no longer Simon, but you are Peter, meaning rock. And on this rock, I will build my church. Some people mistakenly believe that Peter was the rock, but Peter was a fallible man, and the church was not built on Peter. The church was built on the rock of Peter's confession, on the truth that Jesus is the Messiah. That's the rock on which the church is built, and that is unchanging. Somebody please read Mark 9:2-8. Thank you, Grace.
And after 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became radiant, intensely white, as no one on earth could bleach them. And they appeared to them Elijah with Moses, and they were talking with Jesus. And Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah. For he did not know what to say, for they were terrified. And a cloud overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud, this is my beloved Son, listen to him. And suddenly looking around, they no longer saw anyone with them but Jesus alone. And as they were coming down the mountain, he charged them to tell no one what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead.
So they're still near Caesarea Philippi, on a mountain somewhere near Caesarea Philippi, possibly Mount Hermon, but we don't know for sure. And what happens? What do we call this event? There's a transfiguration. Jesus is transfigured. He is changed. He is glowing. And who is there with him? Moses and Elijah. And it freaks the disciples out. Peter, James, and John were there. It freaks them out. It would probably freak us out too. And Peter, being Peter, had to say something, but he didn't know what to say. It literally says he didn't know what to say. So he says something stupid. Oh, this is great. I'm sure he's freaking out. This isn't great. I'm freaking out. This is great. I'm going to build a booth for each of you. You know, it's like, no, Peter, just keep your mouth shut. Yeah, Peter had a little freak out there, and Elijah and Moses go away anyway, so they didn't do the booth. And they learned something more of who Jesus is. Who wants to read Mark 9, or who's willing to read Mark 9, 30 through 32? Thank you, Claire.
They went on from there and passed through Galilee, and he did not want anyone to know, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, the Son of Man is going to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him. And when he is killed, after 3 days he will rise. But they did not understand the saying, and were afraid to ask him.
Okay, so where are they? They're passing through Galilee. And what does Jesus tell his disciples?
About crucifixion.
About his betrayal, his crucifixion, his burial, and his resurrection. And they don't understand, but he tries to tell them. And who's willing to read Matthew 17, 24 through 27?
Matthew what?
Hannah? 24 through 27. Matthew 17. Go.
When they came to Capernaum, the collectors of the two drachmen tax went up to Peter and said, Does your teacher not pay the tax? He said, Yes. And when he came into the house, Jesus spoke to him first, saying, What do you think, Simon? From who do kings of the earth take toll or tax? From their sons or from others? And when he said, From others, Jesus said to him, Then the sons are free. However, not to give offense to them, go to the sea and cast a hook and take the first fish that comes up. And when you open its mouth, you will find a shekel. Take that and give it to them for me and for yourself.
So, they are in Capernaum. I'm not sure if it mentioned that. They're in Capernaum. Capernaum. So, Capernaum. That's Capernaum. And he is asked for the tax. There's a tax that was required, and he's asked for the tax and the tax money. And how does he get it?
Fish mouth.
Yep, he tells Peter to throw a hook in, brings up a fish, and there's a shekel in the fish's mouth. Now, that was a miracle for sure, but there is a fish in the Sea of Galilee, and it is known for putting small things in its mouth for ballast. And these fish have been found with bottle caps, with money, coins, stones in their mouths for ballast to kind of hold them down. So it wasn't all that uncommon to find these things in a fish's mouth. I don't know about a shekel, the exact amount needed to pay the tax, but immediately the right fish took the bait. So cue the turtle. I told you that story, right? I haven't told you.
I think you have, but we forgot.
At camp, there was a girl one year who all she wanted to do was catch a turtle at the fishing dock. Somebody had caught a turtle and she wanted one, and every day she went fishing, and every day there was no turtle. And it was the last day, and it was right at the end, and they're like, how are we going to tell this girl that she's got to stop fishing, and she didn't get a turtle. And part of the reason she never caught anything is that this is the way she fished. And she just never left the hook out there. So she goes like this, and just as she's starting to reel it back in, it just sinks way down, and the guys have to grab onto pole, or else it would have flown out of her hands. And they're reeling it in, and they're reeling it in, and they get there, and up comes this turtle. Now, the turtle let go and swam away or whatever, but she was thrilled. She was like, that was it. That was all she needed. She had her turtle at the very last minute. And so whenever something, and stuff like that happens at camp all the time. So we have a name for it now. Whenever something like that happens, we mention a angel up in heaven going, cue the turtle, and there's the turtle. So cue the fish, and here comes your tax money. I think that fish is a tilapia, but I'm not entirely sure. I think it might be a tilapia. Okay, Matthew 18, 1 through 5. Yes, Ben.
At that time the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Who's the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And calling to him a child, he put him in the midst of them, and said, "Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me."
Great. So he's still in Capernaum, and the disciples are doing what? They're arguing. What are they arguing about?
Who's the greatest?
Who's the greatest? I'm better than you. I'm better than you, and I'm better than you. I'm the best. And Jesus addresses that by bringing a child in their midst and saying, unless you become like this child, you have no part in me. Why did he choose a child? What does a child represent? Yeah.
Being born again.
Okay, but how? What is it about a child?
Innocent.
And that's the thing most people say, but are they? You ever been around a 2-year-old? No, they're not innocent. None of us is innocent. Yeah.
They're dependent.
Dependent, and they know it most of the time. Sometimes they say, I do it myself, but then they do it themselves, and they go, I can't do it, right? They understand their need for help. And if we're just concerned about how great we are, do we really understand how pitiable and poor and blind as Revelation tells, the angel tells one church in Revelation they are. I think that's why he uses a child, because the child is it needs help and knows it. Let's do Matthew 18, 6 through 14. Matthew 18, 6 through 14. Who wants to read that? Thank you, Jake.
But whoever causes one of these little ones to believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea. Woe is the world for temptations to sin, for it is necessary that temptations come, but woe to the one by whom the temptation comes.
I'm sorry, is that Matthew 18?
Yeah.
Is it? Interesting. Let's go to Mark 9, because that's not even on the list. Maybe it gets to it, I don't know. Does it get to,
It was like right after what I read.
okay. So let's go Mark 9, 38 through 50.
John said to him, "Teacher, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to stop him, because he was not following us. But Jesus said, do not stop him, for no one who does a mighty work in my name will be able soon afterward to speak evil of me. For the one who is not against us is for us. For truly I say to you, whoever gives you a cup of water to drink because you belong to Christ will by no means lose his reward."
That's good. We're good there. Thank you. So, still in Capernaum. And what does John do? John tells Jesus something. What is it, Hannah?
That someone is casting out demons in his name.
Yeah, but he's not one of us, so he shouldn't do that. And Jesus says no. And anyone who is not against us is for us. So Jesus rebukes him. And then he also tells some parables in that time period. We didn't read all those, but we're running out of time, a little short time today compared to last hour's class. And then the last one is Matthew 18:15 through 35. We want to tackle that. Thank you, Ben.
If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not listen, take 1 or 2 others along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen even to the church, let him be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth should be loosed in heaven. Again I say to you, if two of you agree on earth about anything they ask, it will be done for them by the Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among them. When Peter came up and said to him, Lord, how often will my brother sin against me and I forgive him? As many as 7 times. Jesus said to him, I do not say to you 7 times, but 70 times 7. But 77 times. Therefore the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his servants. When he began to settle, one was brought to him who owed 10,000 talents. And since he could not pay, his master ordered him to be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and payment to be made. So the servant fell on his knees, imploring him, Have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the master of the servant released him and forgave him of the debt. But when the same servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him, he began to choke him, saying, Pay what you owe. So his fellow servant fell down and pleaded to him, Have patience with me, and I will pay you. He refused and went and put him in prison until he should pay the debt. When his fellow servants saw that what had taken place, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their master all that had taken place. Then his master summoned him and said to him, You wicked servant, I forgave you all the debt because you pleaded with me. And should not you have mercy on your fellow servant as I had mercy on you? And in anger his master delivered him to the jailers until he should pay all his debt. So also my heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart.
Excellent. So he's still in Capernaum. And Peter asks him, how many times should I forgive someone? And he throws out this, what he thinks is a huge number, 7 times. And Jesus' answer is essentially every time. 77 times, or some versions say 70 times 7, 490 times. Same person, same sin, probably. And what Jesus means by that is every time. And he tells a parable to make his point, the parable of the unforgiving servant, who, because he begged his master, was forgiven of an insurmountable and unpayable debt. 100 talents, I think it was, or 1,000 talents, it would be like billions and billions of dollars that nobody could ever pay off. And he is forgiven of that debt, and then yet turns around and refuses to forgive the debt of a servant that was unpayable, that was something that could be paid off. And Jesus is saying, but your Father in heaven has forgiven you an unpayable debt, an insurmountable debt of sin. He has forgiven you that, so you need to be forgiving of one another. Okay, that's it. The bell has rung.